of Education to order. We'll start with our Pledge of Allegiance.
All right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. I gotta look up in this room when I do that. Justin painted an American flag on the ceiling. This was his bedroom, so I take advantage of that. Okay, let's see here. We'll ask Lori to take the roll as long as she's still here.
Alrighty. Lisa Johnston.
Here.
Dave Nichols.
Here.
Richard Nitsch.
He said here. He's got his,
sorry.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay, thank you.
The lips
Meredith
moved in that
Sauer.
direction.
Here. Catherine Shalhoub and Kathy Willis.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the purpose of the meeting tonight is to interview candidates for the vacant board seat. Now, just so we're all aware, the position would be filled only until the April election. So it's a temporary filling of a vacancy. Then the voters will decide who will fill that spot and who will fill any other positions that are available. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to interview the candidates. There's a schedule that we have. Hopefully that works, that we can get everyone connected. We've got 5 excellent candidates, so it's going to be real challenging for us to make a decision. But the candidates have an advantage because they get to talk to us. They got to send us answers to questions, and they filled out an application. So I appreciate all that. So as long as Carrie is here, Carrie Trask, we'll get started right away. What I did was we're just going to go in order of alphabetical order, for asking questions. You don't have to ask questions if you don't want. You can ask them. We've allotted about 15 minutes for the candidate. So we'll just take it from there. And Lisa, you're the first one up in alphabetical order.
Okay, I'd just like to say thank you, Carrie, for applying for the position and also for running in April. I really have no questions for you. You did a very good job in completing the questionnaire. Thanks again. I appreciate it.
Okay, good.
Well, that was easy.
Let me tell you, I want to start off by saying, how much I appreciate you taking the time to do this and to interview me and the other 4 and get this thing done.
Good. Well, I guess I'm next. I think I come up before you, Richard. Yep.
Yes, you do.
I got a C, yeah, and you've got a T. Okay. Carrie, what do you see as the role of the public school board?
Oh wow! I think to reflect the voice of the community for starters. I mean, and to do that in an intelligent way that gets beyond ideology and politics and partisanism and all of that. I mean, so much has been politicized that I think we really need to take an oath that we kind of leave that stuff at the door. I do think it's important to have citizens make policy, to have people who are engaged with the school system that also take responsibility, that have to account to the voters for what's done and what's not done, and to really truly be that bridge between community and the people who have the job to administer and provide the program.
Good, thank you. Got one more, might be a little tougher.
Okay.
Our school district began the school year in a blended model. We moved to virtual in October. And as of January 25th, we're going to move back into a blended model. What's your position on those decisions that the board made?
Well, I watched the meeting last week, and I was very happy that you moved into a blended model. I really appreciate the concern, the downright danger of the situation we're in. but it does seem to be working in other school districts. I think that as a teacher for my entire adult life, I can't imagine how teachers are feeling and how students are feeling, just in terms of their emotions and in terms of their sense of connection and participation in doing virtual all the time. So I appreciate Meredith's position that you want to be cautious, you want to be careful, you want to be responsible, but the fact of the matter is I think the blended thing is the perfect transition. It's not gonna save everybody, but I think yeah, I'm really glad you made that decision.
Thank you. That's good for me. Richard, you'd be next.
Yes. Hi, Terry.
Hi,
I'm
Richard.
glad you could join us this evening. I was kind of curious to know how you got involved with the McKinley Academy, and could you real briefly share an experience or two you had with that experience?
Yeah, I was on the McKinley Academy for a long time, and I got on fairly shortly after it was started, and I just simply, I simply got an email one day, I think from the chair of the board. I knew some people on the board. Bev Diener was on the board at the time, and some other people I knew, and they said, we have an opening on the board, and your name came up and came to mind. Would you be interested? And I thought, I'm first person in my family to ever have any higher education, and actually, other than my children, the only one that's ever gone to university. And I've thought, in terms of education in general, as I said in my answer to the question, that boy, it's the last best hope for the children of the working families, and it certainly was good for me. And I thought, all right, this is a program. I know why they've got it. I know what it does. Sure, I would like to lend my support to it and do whatever work I could to advance it, improve it, preserve it if necessary. And I think the McKinley experiment, oh wow, is one that's in evolution. But I think it's got good goals. I think it's become a better program over the time that I was with it, and then thereafter. I think the new principal is doing some really good things. So my own experience is that I guess you look for verification, and we always had a student who was on as a member of the board, and some of the stuff they did, some of the parts of the program they did, really truly reflected a startling and amazing growth in some of those kids. I also knew some of those kids personally. Some were shy and introverted, and some were just smart asses but I really did see them mature in ways that was pretty moving. I think it was certainly pretty moving for me.
Okay. The other thing, one of the things I kind of gravitated to a little bit, it's on your question and answers. You made reference to the devaluation of education in the state, and then you talk about, it's taking a stand to protect, revive, and advance public education. That sounds like quite a task.
Well, it is. I mean, it's a big cause. It's a big cause, Richard. I was just appalled by, Act 10 and everything that went with it, and it was done for nakedly political reasons. The crushing of the teachers' unions. It was just, and then the slashing of the budget. I mean, all the way from the university on down to kindergartens. just seemed to me like, boy, this is not Wisconsin anymore. I moved to Wisconsin, taught at UW Manitowoc, and was really, really happy to come to Wisconsin because I lived across the river for a while, went to graduate school and college in the Twin Cities, and I was always impressed by Wisconsin, especially how the quality of the education in the state, from the university on down, in fact. And all of a sudden, that was under attack, and devalued would be a modest, polite term to what they did with education in this state. I feel very, well, militant about that. And I know there are forces in this community that would like to see things cut, see things change, see things eliminated. You know, I think they should be done. If any of those things are done, they should be done for good reasons that serve the needs not only of the students but of the community. So yeah, I mean, it's it's my part of the state that I live in where I can perhaps do something about it. I mean, I have to face the voters yet, and you know, I haven't had too much luck with them yet. But nevertheless, while I was going down in flames on the assembly run, I was talking to my close friend Sherry about, you know, maybe what I should do is I should try to run for something local, and maybe the thing that I might be best at would be to try to run for school board. And then all of a sudden this opening occurred, and I thought, wow, give it a whirl, give it a try. I mean, I'd be honored to serve, and I'd be excited about having the opportunity to, you know, protect, revive, and advance public education. And it is public education that I'm in favor of.
Okay. Thank you, Kerry.
All right, Meredith, you're up.
All right. I really appreciate you acknowledging the consequences that Act 10 has had on our state and on our district. They've been fairly monumental. I know you've had quite a bit of experience working with different teams. And so my question to you would be, we definitely are a team. We're one body united for the students in our district. And so what are some aspects of serving on teams that you've had or boards? What are some of the aspects you liked, and what were some of the aspects you disliked?
Well, you know, all the way through. I mean, when we I don't know if you know anything about the history of UW Center or UW Manitowoc. You know, it was in pretty bad shape when I got here, and we really truly insisted that we had to do that together. It wasn't like, oh, gee, you've got a schedule that you only teach 3 days a week. But, you know, this place exists 6 days, 7 days a week. And so the expectation was that we all did our part, bigger than just our slot, you know, teaching history 101 and 105 and whatever else. So team stuff, I mean, I was an athlete in high school and for a while in college, and you know, that whole thing just seemed to me to make all kinds of sense, not just for playing games and winning and losing, but, you know, for living life in a sense. And, you know, some of you may know I come from the socialist dominion to the north. I'm Canadian by birth and upbringing. And I really still kind of, you know, have the embodiment that of a value system that says, well, everybody should be covered by healthcare. Everybody should work together on making their communities better. And I thought, you know, the United States in a lot of ways offers people a lot of opportunity to do that sort of stuff. And I've always, as you can see, been interested and willing and even enthusiastic about being on boards. And the one thing I never liked was, you know, people who weren't team players. I mean, I didn't necessarily dislike them as people, but I thought it was just a bad thing. And I always found that by working as teams, as trying to find a way to move forward what we were trying to move forward together, didn't create a kind of a mediocrity, didn't kind of, result in a dilution of talent, but in fact, really had the opposite effect. And I think that when people work together for a good cause, and you wouldn't be on this if you wouldn't run for election if you didn't think it was a good cause. But people that are just doing it for building resumes or doing it to get extra points at work or something. It's like, okay, it's okay. It's a free country, but I really am for all the people working together.
Thank
So,
you.
and if I should happen to get on, I mean, I'll try to demonstrate that. I mean, I never hold back on what I think, but I always back down when I'm told it's dumb. So, I'm not in love with my own ideas.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, Kathy, you get to go last. Hopefully we didn't ask all the questions you wanted to ask, but.
Yeah, well, there were some, but
Okay.
W was always on the tail end there. So welcome, Carrie. It's nice to see
a lot.
you.
Nice to meet you, Kathy.
Hey, my question for you is, it seems like you have a lot of civic achievements. And if you could kind of briefly think of your greatest civic achievement and how that might play out here on the board, what kind of attributes does that help our board with in our community of learning?
I would say I like the fact that I was on the board and was the president of the board when we built the library, raised the funds and convinced the community that it was a good idea. I mean, Manitowoc is a kind of a place where a lot of people say, well, it'll do, about a lot of stuff. I mean, it's sometimes hard to sell a new idea, especially if it's going to cost money. But I really had a great experience on the library board. But I think the achievement that I celebrate the most is the Spirit of the Rivers. Now, I don't know, not everybody loves art, and I do, because my father was very artistic, and always stressed that with us. But we took this idea and we said, look, we're really down. This was in 2000. We started right when, right before Barack Obama came in, right when, the bottom was falling out of the economy, and it looked like the world was just going to sink into the darkness. And a number of us said, wow, this is a great idea. I mean, it's not a practical idea, but it's an idea that could get at the spirit of this place, that could do something to, rather than curse the darkness, we could do a sculpture. We could fight back against the depression and the feeling of depression by doing something positive and beautiful and majestic, and something that really said, boy, this is a special place. Look what we could do. And of course, we were at it for 4 or 5 years and hardly raised enough money to, buy lunch. But as we kept at it, and we all kept at it, we sold the idea with some modest results at first, but then some major results later. And we did what everybody said, including, people on the city government, that was oh my God, you'll never be able to accomplish that. And the day that it was dedicated, there was a tremendous outpouring of civic pride on that thing. And there was a tremendous sense of celebration that we had done something, not just practical, but something that really, really address the sort of the spiritual needs in a way of the common good. So I'm, you know, and I contributed money to it myself, and I always, you know, and I always, you know, I think that's, Kathy, I don't know, that's a long answer to one question, but I think that was, for me, you know, when I die, I think that's going to be something that I'm really still going to be proud of to the very end, I think.
Sometimes the things that are most worth doing are the hardest, right?
I think so too. Yeah, I think so. The ones that people say, you're never going to pull this off.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, Tim is here, and I don't want to take up his time, but I appreciate the good discussion we've had here, or at least, you know, the good question answer period, I think, and look forward to working with you if I can.
Good.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you, Carrie.
Okay.
Thank you, Carrie.
What do I do? Just click on here. Let me tell. Well, Tim might want to know this too. I know you're going to close session, and I know that that's for talking about what you're going to do with this appointment. When can people who are being interviewed tonight? When can we expect an answer?
You're muted, Dave.
Dave,
Dave?
you're muted.
Dave is muted. Yeah.
Dave is muted.
I'm sure it was a delightful speech.
That happens sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I wish I had heard that speech. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go into closed session, and then I don't know, you know, we have no idea how long that will take, but we'll come back into open session, and then we'll release our decision. So you should be able to access that after the closed session. When we go back into open, you should be able to come back in. You'll be excluded from the closed session, and then you should be able to come back in.
I mean, I should go off camera now, shouldn't I?
No, you can. It's an open meeting. It's an open meeting, so you can stay around.
Oh, okay. Well, all right.
Yeah, you're welcome to stay on. You know, just probably want to mute your computer just like I did, and
Just mute my computer. Okay.
so nothing unusual comes out, you know.
Yeah,
But
of course. Yeah.
all right, thanks a lot, Carrie.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, let's see. The next one on my schedule is Tim Rice. I see Tim is here. Welcome, Tim. And let's see here. Okay, you'll have to unmute yourself as well. And then we're going to do this. The format we're using is, hey there, Tim. The format we're using is we're all asking questions if we have questions. There may be some, there may not be some. And, you know, it's pretty much you just answer the questions. We got your responses to the questions we sent to you and your cover letter, so we appreciate that. So you're up. We go in alphabetical order here. That's easiest for me. Then I don't have to think too much. So Lisa, you're first. Go ahead.
Welcome, Tim, and thank you for applying for the vacant board seat. Appreciate your time in doing that. The school board recently passed a $4.2 million referendum resolution that we will be placing on the April ballot. Do you support the referendum resolution?
So I haven't dug into the finances. I think it'd probably be something if I was on the board that we'd probably look into, is to understand where we spend money, where we have extra money, what's discretional money, those type of things, right? So as an insider, as a person that would vote, I would need to understand numbers better, what things look like. As a general member of the population, I'm for education. If that's what we need to keep the kids learning better, that's something I'll support. So.
Any other questions, Lisa? That's good. Okay. And I go next, Tim. And thank you for applying for this position. You weren't on at the beginning, and I know Aaron wasn't on either. But I mentioned that we have 5 excellent candidates. We can only choose one. And you're only on until April, the election, and then the voters have their choice. And we'll see how that goes. So this is actually tougher for me. I've gone through this. I think this is the 4th time I've gone through this. Elections are so much easier. You vote anonymously, and then they accumulate the votes, and that's what we decide. Here we have to really, we become almost like personnel directors or human resources directors here. So anyways, my question is, one of them is off of the questions and answers that we sent you. You mentioned an issue that motivated you to serve on the board, and the COVID issue, obviously that's an important issue.
Right.
What can you just expand on that answer? How do you think the board has handled it, or the school has handled it, and what do you think we could perhaps do better? That's not an easy question, is it?
No, it's all right. It's part of being on boards, right? Is answering difficult things. So, and I hope you don't take this wrong, right? I'm just going to be honest, right? That's something I would always offer the board, is I'll offer an honest opinion about what I'm thinking all the time. But I think the communication has not helped with the community. Maybe I can't quite phrase it. I'll just tell you personally, when I read some of the things, sometimes it feels very third personish, and I get why you do that sometimes. But I think sometimes you also need to connect with the community a little better about what's going on and why things are happening. I think I can understand why we didn't put in full face option as part of this is an example, why we didn't put in like face-to-face full-time as an option in the survey. I understand that was probably a decision that the group said, we're not going to do that anyway, so let's not even put it in there. But at least from what I remember reading, it wasn't even addressed, right? So you left a lot of people disenchanted with you just completely disregarding their initial opinion to start with. So there's been different things like that I think maybe I'm very good at putting myself in the perspective of the people I'm working with or working like at work, right? I very often put myself in their perspective, figure out how they're gonna receive my message, receive whatever program I'm putting in, and maybe having a voice like that on it that's pretty good at understanding how to put yourself in the other person's shoes prior to the communication could be helpful to the board.
Well, thank you. The only other question I have, I asked this of Carrie, is what do you see as the role of the public school board?
I think you set the level of excellence. I think I wrote this somewhere. I don't know if that was in there or something I was thinking about. I don't remember, but I really think the school board, to me, it's like any leadership in any business. I mean, it's the same thing. Leadership sets the level of excellence that's to be accepted, right?
Right.
There's human nature, right? And we talk about this a lot in business. I think it's the same everywhere, is that it's human nature to maximize people's satisfaction. People do that by meeting minimum expectations, right? If I can get the same satisfaction by doing less work, that's what most people do, right? So it's really all about that level of expectation we set, right? Whether it's in the classroom, if it's on the sports team, or I even if it's on the debate team or a chess team. I'm not sure if we have those, but I hope we have outlets like that for kids also that don't do the other thing.
Thank you. Okay, Richard, you're next.
Okay, actually, first off, hi Tim. Thanks for joining us this evening. I actually would like to do a follow-up to Dave's question, and that is, could you kind of describe for us the role of the board versus the role of the superintendent?
To me, the superintendent in my world would be more like the executor of the strategy put together by the board, right? The board, I would guess that the superintendent proposes, I would expect them to propose a strategy, a plan for the year. I would expect that the board approves that plan. They make whatever changes to the plan they think are appropriate. And the superintendent's role is to go execute that plan.
Okay, and what should the relationship be like between the board and the superintendent?
It needs to be cordial. I mean, you need to be able to get along, right? It's the same at work, right? I mean, I hate to keep on going back to work, but that's where I got a lot of experience. But it's no different than myself and my teams, right? We have cordial, we get along. We don't always agree, right? But we're always very honest about feedback, right? It doesn't help any organization to sugarcoat how things are going. But you always need to praise people also when they're doing well. It's, to me, it's basic blocking and tackling type of stuff of leadership. So.
Okay, and then after that, just have an observation. In some of your responses, you indicated, well, I need to get more information, and actually, I respect that. Rather than shooting from the hip and trying to make something up, it's, if you and being on the board is a learning experience, and there's a lot to learn about public education. So I just want to let you know I actually respect those answers.
All right. Well, thank you. Yeah, I guess I try to remove emotion from a lot of decisions. I mean, it's always part of anything, but I never do purely emotional decisions, right? It's looking at what do we know, what's the goal, and how do we get there?
Okay, thank you, Tim.
Okay, Meredith, your turn.
Thanks, Tim. I appreciate you being here tonight. We have some collision of worlds, and we've never actually met, but I've seen your name on papers in my work world. So kind of a neat overlap there. I had a question. We, as a district, have determined that we need to have some very focused work on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Result of that focus, we have been training a lot of our building leaders and have formed an equity committee to begin that discussion of what that looks like in our district. And so my question to you would be, how as a board member would you forward or support that initiative?
I hate to go back to I think it was Dick's question a little bit about you need to understand things before you answer them, but I think the starting point would be what's the definition of diversity and equity that we're going by, right? So what's that definition we're going to use? Is it diversity of race? Is it diversity of age? Is it diversity of religion? Or is it diversity of thought, right? So there's different aspects of diversity that we need to be aware of. So I'd start with what's our goal, right? And then go from there. If you want to talk about diversity and whether I support it, I don't know if this is a fact, but I'll tell you among the leaders. If you look at my team, obviously the company I work for is very supportive of the diversity movement. I think I had over 50% of my managers are female. Over 50% of my team is female. I don't know, I think at least a third of my group is of Asian descent, right? So, and I'll say it wasn't all by accident, right? I understood where the company wanted to go, and I support that initiative. I'll also tell you I did not put people in positions just because of race, belief, whatever it was. They had to earn it, right? So my philosophy was I'm going to get a diverse candidate pool, and the best will win. And those are the people that we promote and put in those positions. So.
That's all I had, Dave.
Okay, thank you, Meredith. And Kathy?
Okay, hi, Tim. My question goes right from the questions that we had asked you, actually, and I had noticed that the last time you were actually really involved in anything outside of, I'm assuming, work and family was in 2016. So I'm wondering why that is and what brought you to the point where, I mean, besides COVID, that you feel as though you can start contributing back again on different groups or committees.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think back here, 2016, I'm trying to think what role I was doing then. I think that was,
You had St. Francis.
yeah, oh, yeah. But I think what happened at that time career-wise is they offered me to lead a division of part of the Manitowoc company. And I was traveling about 80% of the time. And I mean, it just, you know, there wasn't even enough time for family hardly then, right? So, you know, I think that was what kind of changed a lot of things at that point in my life. Because I think there was a number of things that at that time I stepped away from. And it was strictly because I was traveling all the time.
So you did say though that you are still traveling globally, be it virtually now, but that could change again. So how would you fit the board and our schedule into it?
Yeah, so I think it's first to know that what I commit to, I go after, right? I don't do something halfway or I don't do it at all. So I would be committed. I have thought about this, actually with the hour differences. Primarily, I travel to Asia and to Europe are the two places I travel to the most. I don't do a lot of US travel things. If I'm in Asia at the time, it's a 12-hour difference. It'll be it'll be early morning and I can schedule meetings around that easy enough. If I'm in Europe, it'll be lunchtime and I can schedule around those meetings also.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And I do have the latitude to set my schedule when I'm traveling in terms of what I'm doing during the days when I'm there, right? I just tell people, look, I'm going to be busy from this time to that time. I'm not going to be able to have meetings set up with me during that time. And I also have some latitude of when I travel overseas, although sometimes it's not just because maybe there's a major meeting or maybe something came up that needs my attention right away type of thing, so.
All right, thank you so much.
Yep.
Okay, anybody else want to ask another question? I mean, we got a little time here, I guess. I think Rhonda is on next, and I don't see her here yet, but she wasn't actually scheduled till 6:45, so.
You know, and just so you know, I didn't know that I tried to time it to come in about the time of my schedule. I didn't realize it was an open thing, so.
Yeah, that's all
I'm
right.
gonna keep them all in an email, say, hey, you can join whenever, so you don't have to wait on them. That's
Yeah.
a good idea.
It works.
Yeah, well, you're welcome to stick around, so.
All right.
We'll just cut you out when we go to the closed session, that's all, and then hopefully we can bring you back.
All right. Good.
But yeah, I guess if there aren't any questions, we'll just have to wait around for Rhonda. I see Aaron's here, but I don't want to jump into him and then have Rhonda show up.
You're not gonna like
So.
make me sing or anything, are you?
Yeah.
Like this. So.
You know, and Tim, I need to brush up on my math, but you know, it's in your cover letter. You made reference to the school district should be in the top quintile in Wisconsin, and I was going to look up quintile.
Oh, it's a different way of saying percentile, right? I guess the way I think of it is
Okay.
we talked about quintiles of things. So, you know, I think that's something that as a board we'd need to determine, you know, what quintile should we be targeting, right? And what are those schools doing different than what we're doing?
Mhm.
And how do we go about getting there fast?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and Tim, I have long professed that the Manitowoc School District should be above the state average. You know, and we have our work to do.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw my letter of what do they call it? The first letter I had to submit with my application.
Your cover letter.
Yeah, we all received that, yeah.
Yeah, you know, and that's true, right? I mean, I was fortunate to grow up in it was a very small town. It was only 2,500 people. But, I mean, we were always in the top, I think, 0.1% of the state. I mean, we were always had an extremely strong school system. And a lot of people left that school from that little town, become very successful in life. So you know, I want my daughter to have that same thing. I think it'll take longer than that. She's a sophomore. But certainly everybody coming out of Manitowoc should have that opportunity. So.
Thank you. Anything else for Tim? I see Rhonda's here. She's supposed to start at 6:45, but she's here. There's no reason to wait any longer. Welcome, Rhonda.
Yep. Thank you.
Hello.
I'll tell you the same thing I've told the rest is we had 5 excellent candidates here, but we can only choose one. And your term would only last until April, and then the voters get to decide. We got to decide tonight, and so that's how it's going to work. You can stick around, by the way, after you're done. We still have 2 others that would come after that. You can stick around. We'll go into closed session though, and then it would just be the board members. And then the plan is to come out of closed session and make a decision. And then we'll just go from there. So here we're just asking questions. We got your cover letter. We got your responses to the questions, and I appreciate that. I appreciate your willingness to stick your neck out here and put up with us. So we'll get it started. Lisa Johnson, you are first with your questions for Rhonda.
Sure. Hi, Rhonda. Welcome, and thank you for applying for the vacant school board seat. Thank you. My question is, the school board had just passed a $4.2 million referendum to be run on the April ballot, and I'm just wondering if you are in support of that resolution, how you feel about the referendum.
Without having read the resolution, I haven't had an opportunity to do that. I guess I'd like to be able to read that and get more information on it. But if it would take away anything from the education or support for the schools and the teachers, I don't want to take anything away, so I would most likely support that. I just need more information before I would commit to whether or not I would support it, but I certainly wouldn't want to take away any necessary funding.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anything else, Lisa?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, well, then I'm next on the alphabetical order here. Rhonda, I'm just pulling some things off of the questions that you answered that we sent you. I believe you, 5 children, right? Did they all went through the MPSD at one time or are in the MPSD?
Yes,
that correct?
they did. Correct.
Okay. What has been your experience since the COVID-19 situation came up last March? We've been in a couple of different methods of teaching and learning. We're going back into a blended form again on January. What has been your experience for your family through that?
Well, I have 2 children that are in 7th grade and a junior, and they have been struggling quite a bit with the online schooling. On my junior, he also does the youth apprenticeship program, so he doesn't really receive any in-person instruction. He is required to, after he's done working, go and watch the videos, which that has put a great deal of stress on him. And we're happy that starting next week, we are adjusting his youth apprenticeship schedule, so he will be able to attend in person on Thursdays. The 2 younger children, my son, he is absolutely struggling. He was a fairly good student, received pretty good grades, and through this, he is struggling and his grades have suffered. My daughter also has some learning disabilities or learning issues, and she actually she's thriving. She misses the social aspect of it, but she has a really good reading specialist who's been working with her and taking extra time. So I'm very impressed with that. My concern was she was going to fall even further behind, but that hasn't happened. So I'm impressed with that aspect of it.
Okay, thank you. Another thing off of your question and answer, you're the register and probate in Calumet County, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and in my role at Social Services, and now I'm the chair of the Public Safety Committee in Manitowoc, so I've had a lot of contact with the Register and Probate, and I know Patty pretty well here. Well, how is that experience? Because you work with a lot, I mean, not always, but you often work with families that are in very challenging situations. A lot of the students that we have that are having achievement gaps, you would at some time have some contact with. How do you think that would really help in your role on the school board?
Well, as
Your
a
experiences
juvenile
there.
Yes, as a juvenile clerk, I see, I read the documents. When it gets to my office, those students are really struggling. They're truant, and I am able to, I read the documents and all the efforts that the schools have gone through before they even get to the point of coming to my office and coming to court. I note that sometimes that's all it takes for some students is to show up in a courtroom and have the judge talk to them, and that works. Other students, we have to have monthly check-ins, monthly court hearings to make sure they're actually attending school. It's just different for each student. And I think my job and what I get to see on the other end, like the family life, is beneficial because I know the struggles. I can relate to some of the parents in their positions. I just would bring that insight to the board.
Yeah, and that's really what I was looking for. You know, we don't always see that end of it. We see the child, but we don't know the environment. We don't always have that environment. You have better access to that. I know that through what you do it as registered probate. There's no doubt.
And there's some occasions where it's not the student's fault, it's the parents' fault that they don't get up to take the kids to school. There's just so many different issues and aspects of everybody's different families that contribute to truancy or delinquency or abuse and neglect.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Richard?
Yes, you made reference several times, I think, in the information that I looked over in regard to communication, you know, and you did seem to emphasize the importance of communication. And at one point you made, you know, as just some suggestions, you know, establishing a community stakeholder committee. You also made reference to developing a parent involvement programs. I was wondering, you know, what is your vision in those regards, and what's the difference between the two terms?
Well, the community stakeholders committee that was in reference to closing the gap, the learning gap, and that would be to have members of the community, teachers, students, business leaders, all coming together to collaborate and find out ways to help close that gap. I think the more information and the more opinions you have, the better success it is. As far as the parent engagement, that is just trying to get parents more engaged. When you have more engaged parents, their students and children will do better.
Okay, that's easier said than done. Any thoughts on how you engage parents more?
I think you need to communicate. You need to work around. I know a lot of times some of the meetings that are scheduled they don't work for everybody, like setting up a couple different meetings, making sure that everybody who wants to participate can participate. I think that's really important. I know people, if they're not able to attend a meeting, they may not go out of their way to find out exactly what happened at that meeting. And they may just shut down and say, well, I guess it's not important. I'm just going to not do anything about it.
Okay, all right, thank you. You know, the term learning gap or achievement gap, you know, actually, you know, kind of becomes a bit of an education, you know, it's catch term. You know, what does that mean to you, and where do you see the gaps in the Manitowoc School District?
Well, from my personal experience, my 3 older children actually attended kindergarten in Chilton. And when they came out of kindergarten, their reading foundation was really good. They were able to read, and I think that is very important.
Mhm.
My other 2 did not go to Chilton, and they struggle to this day with reading. And that's not, that could just be them. That may not be the difference between the 2 school districts. But I just find that they're struggling more than the 3 that had the learning experience in a different school district, because they approach the way they taught reading a little bit differently than Manitowoc does. So I don't know if that was a factor or all children learn differently.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, Meredith?
Hi, Rhonda. Thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate you throwing your hat in the ring. My question to you would be that as board members, we receive a lot of input, both from the public as well as from one another during meetings. So my question to you would be, how do you handle situations where you may have an opinion that differs from others? How do you express that opinion? And how do you work with others who may differ from your opinion?
Well, I think that everybody's opinion matters and everybody's voice matters, and you need to give it the proper consideration. And you may come to find that your opinion may change based on their experience and what they tell you. You have to be open-minded. You can't just say, this is my opinion and I'm not going to I'm not going to change. You have to be open and be able to be receptive to receiving information and receptive to changing.
Thank you. And I also just wanted to thank you as well for sharing your honest feedback about the virtual learning. I think we've all kind of had some different experiences, and I appreciate you giving us that honest opinion.
Okay. And then Kathy, here's your chance.
Yeah. Hi, Rhonda.
Hi.
First, I wanted to say I really appreciate what you do as a job. That has to be very difficult, and to not take that home with you every day. So thank you for taking a role that's, I think, a tough job. So my question for you, though, is you had mentioned when Lisa asked you about the referendum that you would have a hard time answering it without being more informed. So as a board or as a district, how do you see the communication becoming better in our community to relay that the need for having that referendum?
Right. I think you need to put it out there more so it reaches more people. Right now, I think some people are taking it as a hard pill to swallow, that their kids aren't in school, their kids are struggling, and now you're asking for more money.
Mm-hmm.
But without that money, they may not be able to hire the teachers needed or the aides needed. You'd have to cut but your budgets and resources. I just think that it needs to be out there that this is what will happen if this referendum isn't passed,
Mm-hmm.
that it will be a detriment to the students, to the staff. It just needs to be communicated more how important this funding is.
So as a community member, though, I mean, that's what you are at the moment.
Yeah.
How would we reach you to communicate that? Like, very specifically, how do we can sit here and be in a meeting and say how we need it. But first of all, as a board, we're not allowed to promote it ourselves. So
Okay.
How do you see that communication being able to happen?
That I'm not familiar with. I don't know, like, promoting it. Like, could you put it out on the website, a link saying, here's information. This is why we need that funding. Without the funding, these are some of the cuts that could be made. I think just getting the word out there. I'm not sure what the rules are as far as posting that information on the school's website or emailing it to families or mailing it. That I'm not aware of, but I would read information sent to me. Or if I had a link to go to review it online.
Good point. All right, thanks.
Anything else? Anything else anybody want to ask? Good. Thanks, Rhonda. You can stick around.
Thank you.
It's only 6:55, but Aaron's been hanging around for a while, and we might as well go to him because I believe that Michael's will be he sent us a video clip, right, Mark? Is that correct? So Michael, he isn't actually here, so we might as well just go ahead with Aaron, and then we can do Michael's right away. So Aaron, welcome. As I've told all the rest, I appreciate you being here and putting yourself out here for us. And again, we can only choose one. So, I hope there's no hard feelings from anybody. That's all we can do. Some of our members that are on the board now have gone through this, so they know what it's like. But we're just going to ask some questions. We have the information you provided on your cover letter and on the question and answer that we had. So, Lisa, you go first.
Sure. Hi, Aaron. Thank you, and thank you for applying for the vacant school board position. My question is to you. The school board had passed a $4.2 million resolution to pass to put the referendum on the April ballot. Just wondering if you support that, what your feeling is about it. Thank you.
Sure. So first of all, thank you very much for having me in this session. I would first start by saying that I, stay true to my values, and generally I never like increasing my own taxes as a member of the community. But I don't have enough information right now to definitively say whether I would support it or not. But generally, I am not a fan of referenda, but I do appreciate the difference between recurring and non-recurring, and I do appreciate that it is a 3-year span that it covers, so that voters get a say, again at some point if that comes up again. And I think it is a tough sell for the district, especially now when a lot of the students are not in school and a lot of parents are struggling, including myself, because kids in my care, they're already starting rungs down the ladder from where other kids are because of things that they've been through. So from that angle, I'm not a fan of referenda, but I do appreciate that it is for 3 years and that voters ultimately have a say. And I have noticed too, just being a citizen of Wisconsin, that referenda are more and more frequent. Years ago, it used to be just for capital expenditures. We're going to build a gym. We're going to build a high school. We're going to renovate, a school, and that would be it. But now it's the school districts are in a very tough spot because now you're seeing more and more operating expenses on those referenda. And so, the voters have to decide whether the school district operates business as usual or whether they make really drastic cuts. And that could really negatively affect, the education of, the kids of this community. And that's important because, they're gonna be in our shoes, very soon, running this community, running businesses, taking on jobs and leadership. So we definitely want to put out the best, the best future citizens as we possibly can. But generally, of course, I don't think any taxpayer likes their taxes being raised. And I think it is a really tough sell this year, having the kids not in school. But I have not had an opportunity to really dig into it yet because the vote isn't for a few months yet. But as a citizen and as a member of this community, I definitely will be looking a lot deeper into that before that election.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, my turn, Aaron. Welcome. This is a question that I've got off of your cover letter that you sent, and I appreciate your willingness to let us know that you apparently struggled in school. I mean, I guess I could use that word. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, and that's okay. But you certainly have taken steps beyond that to get well beyond that struggle that you had during your grade school, high school days. Congratulations on that. I think, how do you feel that experience that you had, in light of the fact that we've got identified achievement gaps in our district? Our test scores aren't where we'd like them to be, and a lot of that is related to those achievement gaps. And it would be students perhaps somewhat similar to yourself, right? Struggling, maybe not enjoying school, and just hoping you can get through it, right? And then all of a sudden you turn things around and made it work. What do you think you could do? How do you think that experience would help us in identifying achievement gaps and in improving those areas in our district?
Sure. So that's a really good question. So what I appreciate from my time in the school district is opportunity. And, coming out of 11th grade, going into my senior year, getting a letter explaining this new opportunity. And I was one of the first students in the GDO2 program. So getting that opportunity, it meant a lot to me because it was, an alternate way to see myself in the future. So I can remember how I felt back then, working I worked in that summer before the senior year, and not a very fun job. So kind of thinking about my future and what that looked like, and getting the opportunity meant a lot to me. So I think what that brings to the board is just that perspective and that empathy for students who are struggling, and it's tough for teachers and parents and counselors and everyone else at the school dealing with those kids, because sometimes it's hard to get through to them, and that was me. So that's the main thing. And another thing that I can appreciate too is I work at social services department in Sheboygan County. So and that has just taught me a ton. They have everyone, even though I'm an accountant, I have nothing to do with the clients that go in and out of that building, but everyone has to be on board with trauma-informed care, and that has completely changed how I see a lot of things. So that's given me empathy, and I think that would drive me to to try to be creative, to find a way to reach these kids and to close that achievement gap. And understanding how trauma affects the brain, I think, has been huge for just kind of guiding my stance on all different things that affect kids. And then also having kids in my house and dealing with that, it's totally changed my perspective. So I think that's what I would bring to that.
Thank you. That's good. Richard, you're up.
Well, and actually, Dave, you did take the question that I was going to.
All right, I got you that time.
I was also curious, to know, what really turned you around, and I thought you did a nice job of explaining, it's how the Manitowoc Alternative Program, gave you a fresh start and a different look on life. So I think that's wonderful. Yeah, on your cover letter, you also make reference to working at the Department of Public Instruction, and you make reference to learning about the ins and outs about school finance. It's how do you think that would help you on the board?
Well, I think, having a CPA license in general, I think would bring something to the board. And just working in my position, dealing with budgets, with the state biennial budget, and just seeing how, those statewide decisions affect school districts, and, that perspective, I think that's what I could bring to the board. And I think, I think the numbers are everything. There's nothing in the world that, explains any situation better than the numbers. I'm a numbers guy. So, that's why, I would be excited to serve on the board, is to dig into the budget.
Did your experiences with the DPI, did it give you an understanding of school finances, and how school budgets are determined?
So yeah, obviously working at the state, and I will also say that a lot of my experience was working with food programs at DPI, but that's a very macro level understanding, of school finances. So I'll admit that no, that is not as relevant as your experience, trying to draft a budget and pass a budget. So yeah, obviously it is a very macro experience, but working for the county, I have experience there, drafting a budget, and so yeah, it's a lot of work that goes into it, and none of those decisions are taken lightly. I can appreciate that.
Yeah, it's the state funding mechanism, that affects districts in different ways, and just wondering about your background with that. You do make reference, to the importance of analyzing data, and I have an appreciation for that. It's I think we should be data driven. Should help us make decisions. But what after that? I know that there's an analogy about weighing a pig. I forget how it goes. But so you can gather data until the cows come home. But then what?
Yeah, very good question. And yeah, I definitely have felt the analysis paralysis at different times in my career, especially when I was in the Navy. So I definitely can see your point of view on that. I think with collecting and analyzing data, I think there also needs to be a human connection too. And I think it's also incumbent on board members to ask tough questions with that data. So I think that's where it ultimately leads, is the board doing its job to ask really tough questions, and to make sure that there's measurable results, and to really see if the taxpayers are getting a good return on their investment.
Okay, thank you, Aaron.
Okay, Meredith.
Aaron, thanks for being here for tonight and answering all of our questions. I'm wondering, obviously we work together, we try to be a team. I'm just wondering if you have served on boards or teams, and if so, what aspects did you like? What aspects didn't you like?
Okay, that's a really tough question. So, excuse me. So I have not worked on any boards in my career, but I have worked in, I would say, hundreds of teams, because, in the Navy, everything we do is as a team. And so working in various situations, I've worked with a very diverse group of people. And I think it's important just to listen as much as you speak. And I am, I'll be honest, I'm very opinionated, and I never, I never really just, kind of hide my opinion. But, it's important to be respectful of what others have to say, and to respect people as people, even if your opinion differs. And so, yeah, I have a lot of experience working on teams with tons of different people, and I think working as a team, I think it's something that you get better at as you work on teams more and more. And so, of all my different job experiences, I would say by far the Navy was the most beneficial for honing that skill.
Thank you. And then I just have another quick question. I appreciate everything you wrote about your personal journey, as well as just kind of filling in some of those gaps. I'm curious, what is driving you to run for school board?
So yeah, that's a really great question. I think it all comes down to being a parent, and then secondly, being a member of this community. So my wife and I, we recently moved here from Columbus, Wisconsin, and we were foster parents there. And we told the agency we would like to have just like a young child, like birth to 5 years old. Just one, to start out with, and they called us and they said, "Hey, we have 3 kids for you, and much older in age." And so we did not even have beds for them in our house. We had like one spare room and a crib, so that we bought when we became foster parents. So we had to go out to Walmart in the middle of the night and go out and buy mattresses and just set them on the floor. So that is the major motivator for me, but also being born in Manitowoc and having to move away. Obviously I can't serve in the Navy in Manitowoc, but I immediately came back, and my wife and I bought a house for $35,000 and fixed it up, and we said, okay, this is the house we're gonna die in, we're gonna live here forever, it's gonna be great. But once I got into college at UW Green Bay, I got a job opportunity that I was recruited for in Madison, and I left, and it felt terrible. But I'm back now, and it's just something you can't explain. But when you have a real love for your community, it's that's what I have, and so I've always wanted to give back. So since I got back here, I've been looking at different opportunities to serve the community, because Manitowoc is just awesome, and it's amazing how. Coming back to visit, family like a few times a year, just noticing all the changes, all the new businesses going up, and all the development is just awesome.
Thank you so much.
And Kathy.
Yeah, I feel really ripped off right now because Meredith took the question right out of my mouth.
We're all doing each other questions
the whole time.
We've used up all the questions, right?
Right. I honestly was so focused on that one thing, and Meredith beat me to it. We got to start W next time.
Yeah.
Gosh, I don't know what to say. What can I ask you? Does anyone else have any questions? Gosh, Aaron, thank you for being here. I love your passion about our community. I guess here's a question. If you could work on one thing as a school board member that you became passionate about, let's take numbers out of this, okay? Let's talk about like subject matter. What would you want to work on? Take numbers.
What do I want to work on? Okay, so just listening into this meeting before I jumped on, I noticed a lot of talk about the achievement gap and also the report card. So I think that would be the main thing that I would want to focus on, is to explore ways to address those. And I talked about trauma-informed care before. That's something that I really have taken an interest in the last year. So that would be, another main topic that I would want to focus on.
Okay, thanks, Aaron.
Anybody have anything else?
Yeah, Aaron, so we don't have a Navy, but we have a submarine.
Yeah. I don't think it's water worthy though, other than floating where it is.
Okay.
I'm not sure I'd want to take that out too far. Okay. I guess I'll turn it over to Mark, because I believe, Mark, we have our 5th candidate, right? And you have a video presentation. And just one thing I'll add, I think Lori left. So I think Lori's on her way to perhaps being a grandparent. Am I correct?
She's
still here. She
is. Okay. I didn't see her anywhere, but okay. Well, early congratulations. Okay. I don't want to get too ahead of things. But anyways, Mark, I believe that we've got that video presentation from Mike Gregorich, right? So we'll go to that right away. If you can figure out a way to get that to show up.
A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michael Gregorich, and I certainly want to start out this evening by thanking you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I do apologize that I am not there and able to do so in real time, at least, albeit virtually, due to the fact that I actually am on a flight right now, if you are listening to this. But I do sincerely hope that this video resume, if you will, does allow me the chance to tell you a little bit about myself, why I'm interested in serving on the MPSD Board of Education, and my thoughts around some of the questions that were sent through by Superintendent Holzman. So to start with, as I mentioned, my name is Michael Gregrich. I was raised right here in Manitowoc in a house about 2 blocks away from Jackson Elementary School. I attended there. That's where I actually started my education career with the MPSD. We moved here when I was in 3rd grade. I graduated from Jackson and then went on to Wilson for junior high school at that time, and then on to Lincoln, where I graduated in 1989. And growing up in Manitowoc, I always had the urge to travel. I wanted to see this amazing world. I wanted to see all the incredible sights that it had to offer. But I knew the first thing I had to do was get out of Manitowoc. And I did do that when I applied for college for my undergraduate in Pennsylvania. I finished that in 1994. And then I went on to graduate school to complete my Master's of Music degree in 1996 from the prestigious conservatory, the Cleveland Institute of Music at Case Western Reserve. And it really was, luckily for me, my musical abilities that gave me the gateway that allowed me to fulfill these dreams I had of traveling and seeing the world. And ultimately, that opportunity really did grant me a unique set of experiences that I truly believe shaped who I am today. A lot of experiences happened throughout the time of graduate school. And then after living in South Africa for much of the first decade of the 2000s, we moved back to Manitowoc in 2009, and I have been back home here ever since with my wife, Madri, and our 2 sons, Owen and Ian. So not only did I graduate from the MPSD in 1989, my 2 sons are currently enrolled in it. Owen is in 6th grade at Wilson, and Ian is in kindergarten at Riverview. So without a doubt, I have a very vested and personal connection to the MPSD and the incredibly important role it plays in educating our children. A little bit more about myself. I work for an international travel group that has offices across Africa, South Asia, and South America. And one of the core messages of that company is to leave the world a better place. And a significant component around that actually does stem around education. From time to time, my job allows me the firsthand opportunity to work with our philanthropy teams to help implement educational structures, standards, and resources that help uplift children from local communities in these regions where we have our offices. And these opportunities have been truly life-changing, and they have shown me that education is so much more than just teaching kids in a classroom. As important as that is, education is so much more than that. It has shown me the importance of engaging community, utilizing resources, of realizing that there are stakeholders that should and must be heard. And most importantly, it has shown me that education literally has the ability to change lives. So these experiences and so many others that I've been blessed with have inspired me to be an advocate for children and an advocate for learning. They have helped me to understand the importance of communication, especially the importance of listening to those that may have different opinions of my own. And they have ingrained in me the importance and the empowerment of education. So I think that tells you a little bit about myself, and possibly the first question that Mr. Holzman had asked to send through about my skills and experiences. And so looking ahead to the second question, we were asked, what do you see as the major strengths of the MPSD? For me, right off the bat, that's an easy one: the teachers, the staff, and the administration. Again, having the unique opportunity and perspective of living outside of the United States, I know how much we should all value these individuals, their dedication, the resources we have at our disposal, and quality of education that is provided for us. When my oldest son was born, he was born in South Africa, and we immediately became interested in his education, and of course to this day. But I have to say, things look very different over there than they do over here. And one of the things that struck us really right from the beginning, and that certainly holds true to today, is the interaction with the teachers, and that these are educators who love to educate. It is not about a paycheck. It is not about punching a clock. It is about a passion and a dedication to what they do and to the impact that they make on our children's lives. And if anybody wants to see this in person, you are more than welcome to come over to my house and watch how our teachers interact with my kids virtually. It is amazing. It is funny. It blows me away. It is a wonderful experience. And, you know, it really is something that has just continually impressed me about our teachers today, no matter what the environment is. You know, another strength, I think we, like other parents, have had our share of challenges as the kids continue to kind of evolve through their educational career. And what we have found at every single turn is nothing but support and encouragement from everyone that we have come in contact with. And that to me is a significant strength of the MPSD. I love that we have a strong athletic department, as well as offering in music and the other arts. We have a strong foreign language department and other incredibly important electives that really create an outstanding curriculum. And that, to me, I believe, is also another strength of the MPSD. And, you know, lastly, I think a strength for the district right now is an engaged community. This pandemic has brought about many things. And one of those certainly is an increased level of engagement in what's going on with our children's education. I think one way or the other, we are more involved in our children's education, either physically and or mentally, than we probably ever have in their careers. And I know that is absolutely true for my wife and I, and that is what motivates me to be involved, and ultimately is one of the reasons why I chose to run for the board. I see an engaged and motivated community to definitely be a strength of the district, and it also makes for certainly an exciting time to be on the board. So those some strengths of the MPSD. The next question, is there a particular issue that motivates you to serve on the board? You know, I think it's very easy for us all to get caught up in what's going on right now. And of course, the pandemic and the fallout thereof was definitely a catalyst for me. But the real issue that motivates me is to simply propel the cause of education. I had listened to a podcast recently, and they talked about a lot about the purpose of what public education is. And of course, there's a lot of different answers to this. It can be to help prepare kids for college or for the workforce, or to help them fulfill their potentials, to help them become well-rounded individuals and good citizens and lead a productive life. There are so many answers that one can give. And my real motivation to that is to help progress those purposes, to help progress education, and education for all students, and understanding that the road in progressing education for all students might and probably should look different, but the goal at the end of that road is exactly the same for everybody. The next question, how are you involved in our community now? I'm trying to be as active as I can. I guess I do wish I was more active in the community. I volunteered for Habitat for Humanity. I volunteered for activities with the Manitowoc Public Schools, and I actually just completed 2 terms as vice president of the board for Redeemer Lutheran Church, where we are members. So I do, though, see the board as an outstanding opportunity for me to become more involved in our community, and especially involved in an organization that I am so passionate about. The next question. The district has identified significant achievement gaps in our diverse student population. What steps do you recommend the board should consider to improve the educational opportunities for all students? You know, firstly, I believe that the goal of the educational opportunities, I believe that the goal should be improving the educational opportunities for all students. I believe that has to be one of the main tasks and focuses of district administrators and of the board. Students of color, students with disabilities, and students in poverty face challenges that for many of us are very hard, if not impossible, to relate to. And that makes it even more important to have a process in place to really personally engage with those individuals who better understand the needs of these students, with their families, their support systems, and then all together put a plan of action in place that allows for the needs of these students to be met. I feel that we have to prioritize these needs as well. Prioritizing is something I tell my boys about all the time. I think it's something very important. Our time and our resources are not unlimited. And we know we have the goal of giving students the best possible foundation to help them move forward with their life after their time at the MPSD. In order to do that, we have to have a plan to address these achievement gaps. So in addition to prioritizing our needs, I think very importantly, we have to ensure that our educators have enough time and opportunity to engage. And I know this is tough, as again, we have limitations on our resources. So we have to really understand what our landscape is. And every part of that landscape, from finances to staffing to those prioritized needs that I talk about. And another thing is we have to take into consideration the feedback that we have received from all stakeholders. That is incredibly important as well. You know, once we have all of this, then we look to implement a plan that addresses and has everybody on board, because that is equally as important as well. Now, this is not a problem for the schools to solve alone. And honestly, a problem is really never solved by a single set of individuals or a board that's dictating a plan without having those that the plan is for involved, engaged, and honestly taking some kind of ownership. I see this a lot in my line of work, where we will propose these big plans to these villages that we think is going to help improve their lives when they have absolutely no interest in that. And that plan will always fail. If they're not engaged, the plan doesn't succeed. And so everybody involved in this plan has to have some sort of engagement. And, you know, in this situation, you know, right or wrong, we look to the schools to find a solution to a problem like this. And wonderfully, the MPSD has a set of district leaders and administrators that have been hired to do this. And I feel strongly as a member of the board that our position should be that of empowerment. We need to empower our leaders to solve challenges like these. And then our role as the board is to then hold them accountable for doing so. But I truly believe that with the cooperation of schools, of parents, of the community, of the board, of all the stakeholders, I believe that the cooperation between all of these entities provides us with one of the best ways to close the achievement gap. And I truly look forward to playing any role that I can in helping support the MPSD's incredibly important work in this area. And the last question, are you able to attend meetings held at 7 p.m. on the second Tuesday and 12 p.m. on the fourth Tuesday of each month, and other committee meetings as well? You know, I will be honest, my job does involve some travel. Once we are past this pandemic, I've been for almost a year now, but my job wonderfully is incredibly flexible. And because of that, I don't foresee any challenges in being able to attend the scheduled meetings and the committee meetings as called. Knowing that there is this set schedule in place makes it so much more convenient for me, because it gives me the ability to work around those meetings and ensure that I am available for them. So I certainly want to iterate here that I fully intend to be an engaged and active member of the board. I see the decisions and the work that is done in meetings like this as paramount to propelling this message that I want to propel, and propelling the message of education in the work of the board. And I will certainly be prioritizing my schedule to be able to attend each and every meeting. And should I not be able to do that for some reason, I will be ensured to give everybody proper notice, and I will be sure to watch the recorded session of that meeting at my very earliest possible convenience. So in closing, I certainly would like to honestly take a moment to thank you, Mr. Holzman, to thank all of our teachers, our staff, and administrators in the Manitowoc Public School District, to thank you for all of your efforts and dedication, not just throughout this environment, but throughout the many years of service. Have been some challenging times lately, and please know that as a parent and as a community member, I want to thank you for that. And I also would like to thank each of you, the members of the school board, for your service to the Manitowoc Public School District and to your community as well. Thank you for that. I truly do appreciate the time that you've taken today for me to tell you a little bit about myself and my thoughts. And I sincerely want to thank you for your consideration of my application to become a member of the Manitowoc Public School District School Board. Thank you.
Okay. I guess I can't really thank him because he's not really here, right? But I guess something that really impresses me about all the candidates is their willingness to serve on the board, their strong interest in being a member of the board, and really wanting us to hire them for one non-paying position. And then they have to go out and campaign for the primary and then the general election in April. So that really speaks well for all 5 of you. And I really appreciate that. Again, the board's gonna vote here to go into closed session, and then as soon as we're done with that, we'll come back in open session. I guess that's our IT department has to take care of that, Mark, and we'll have to exclude the candidates, obviously, and then bring them back in if they're still here. So I guess at this time, I would entertain a motion to move into convene a session for the purpose of considering the following matter: to discuss the candidates interviewed for the vacant seat on the Board of Education for the Manitowoc Public School District. This meeting is authorized pursuant to section 19.851C of the Wisconsin statutes. So it requires a motion and a second, and then we'll need a roll call vote to go into closed session.
I'll move we go into closed session.
I'll second.
Okay, and then Lori is still here, I believe, so we'll do the roll call.
Okay. Lisa Johnston,
Yes.
Dave Nichols,
Yes.
Richard Nitsch,
Yes.
Meredith Sauer,
Yes.
and Kathy Willis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will convene in closed session and we will return in open session when that's completed. So as soon as that can take place here. Okay, I see people magically disappearing here.
Let me know if I disappear.
Yeah.
Full circle. Okay, we're live.
Okay, we're back in open session. Had a really very well vetted discussion in closed session. Again, we had some great candidates. We can only choose one. And I believe we've come to a consensus here. So I would ask for a motion to appoint one of the 5 applicants to the vacant position. And they would be in that position through the April 2021 election. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I would make a motion that we have Carrie Trask serve out the rest of that term until April.
Do we have a second to that?
I'll second.
Lisa seconds this. Do we have any further discussion on that? Do we all have an understanding of what that means? So, all right. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, the motion is carried. And Mark, you said you will reach out then to the candidates. Is that right? Okay,
Yes, I will do that.
there's nothing else here. We meet again when next Tuesday, right? At noon? At our meeting?
Can I ask a question, or unless it's?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Mark, I was just wondering, is everything moving forward nicely, for the blended model starting next week?
Yes, we're on track. Absolutely.
Good. All I wanted to know. Good. Thank you.
And Richard, just so you know, the health numbers regarding COVID are not spiraling up.
Yep.
They're staying fairly steady. Some of the factors are good. Nothing in there is jumping out at us right now in terms of the statistics.
Right. As long as we don't have any jumps from Packer gatherings, we should.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. That kind of stuff is what fuels it. But right now we're okay where we are. I would say at least, we're okay. And there's a possibility that teachers could be receiving vaccine in Manitowoc County sometime in February. It's very possible. But again, I'm not going to say that as a certainty, but it's possible. It's not in our hands. It's all up to the state and then the federal government. They're the ones passing it out. So that would be very helpful for us, obviously.
Yeah.
So I did see though that they're looking at people 65 and over though early too. Right?
I've got my appointment for February 2nd.
There you go. Okay.
Happy
Doesn't help you
Groundhog
much
Day.
though. Not being a teacher doesn't help much, so. All right. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Also move.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.